Story time. So I recently flew with a company called Wizz Air. If you're not familiar with Wizz Air, congratulations, you have self-respect. Their slogan should be, Wizz Air, treat yourself like garbage. You deserve it. It's the kind of airline that would lose your baggage when you only had a carry-on. Like, we hit turbulence before we made it off the ground. And when we landed, people started clapping, which shouldn't be necessary. Because with most airlines, landing is just included in the ticket price, but not Wizz Air. It's so bad, it makes me want to fly with Ryanair. And Ryanair's like one step above a Flintstones car. Honestly, if a Flixbus drives off a cliff, I think it just becomes a Wizz Air flight until it hits the ground. Oh, and if you're wondering, Reggie, are you ever gonna fly with Wizz Air again? Yes, because I'm poor and it's the only thing I can afford, but that's not the point. Story time. A while back, I flew to Berlin because everyone always says how great it is there. But what they don't tell you about is all the frickin' homeless people. There are homeless people everywhere. Or maybe they're hipsters, I don't know. Either way, they're dressed like the bad guys from Ninja Turtles. So I was walking through the park in Berlin with my crush, and I saw this homeless man wearing a long black robe and a bunch of silver rings like a Hogwarts dropout. And when we got close, he pointed his crooked wizard finger at my crush and said, "She could never love you." And nobody else seemed to notice. I started freaking out, like, what in the world just happened? Is anyone else seeing this? And my crush just said, "Calm down, this is Berlin. You're the one being weird right now." But this story doesn't end there, so check back tomorrow for part 2. Story time, part 2. So I was hanging out in a park in Berlin and I saw this guy who was like professionally homeless. And the thing is, he could walk just fine. But the moment he started begging, he started twisting his leg to make himself look disabled. Then he started arching his back like an Instagram girl. It was like he asked himself, what would Beyonce do? Bam! The cardboard sign said #lemonade. And I was so impressed, I gave him €5 just on principle. But apparently, that wasn't good enough for him. Come back tomorrow to hear the end of the story. Story time. I was in a park in Berlin and I saw this homeless man begging for change. I gave him €5 whole and I was proud of myself. I felt like a white woman feeding starving kids in Africa. My karma game was on point. But apparently that wasn't good enough for him because he said in the most obnoxious French accent, "You know, you should really try to speak French. Otherwise it is rude." I'm like, what? We're not even in France. Also, I don't know French words. I can't just try to speak French. J'ai un enfant baguette. And that's supposed to be less rude? And then he just slapped me across the face with his dirty, homeless hand. It felt like being slapped with gummy worms dipped in gravy. And I was like, what the hell? You can't just assault people like that. And he just said, and you cannot speak French. Then he just shrugged and walked away. Someone help me out here. What the hell just happened? Like, I'm still confused. But I guess that's just Berlin.